We learned a lot about the NASCAR lawsuit on Thursday, including what Michael Jordan said about teams that did sign the charter agreement and private text messages with the teams and with NASCAR and things they probably did not want to get out there. Plus, if Spire Racing decides to move on from Justin Haley, who could possibly end up in that 7 car? Welcome back to Break Hard. I'm Matt. Before we get into the lawsuit news, we're going to talk about Frankie Muniz, Agent Cody Banks, the star of Big Fat Liar. He's going to be out the next 6 to 8 weeks from the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series because of a fall that happened at his home on Wednesday in Arizona. He broke a bone in his hand, thumb, wrist area, somewhere around here, I believe. So he is out 6 to 8 weeks. That apparently is the healing time for that. Obviously, there's 10 weeks left in the season, so hopefully we see him for the last couple of races. But an unfortunate break for Frankie and for that 33 Rayum Brothers team. Speedy recovery. Hopefully we get to see him back out on track soon. But we need to talk about the NASCAR lawsuit that happened, the hearing that happened on Thursday in Western North Carolina District Court there in Charlotte, North Carolina. The two sides, NASCAR along with 2311 Racing, Front Row Motorsports, got together and things were contentious, which we fully expected. So we learned a lot from this, including what Michael Jordan said about the teams that did sign and a lot of other things, including private text messages that I'm sure some people really wish did not get out there. Shout out to guys like Matt Weaver, Jeff Gluck, Bob Hawkers, Toby Christie. Obviously, I work a professional job. I was not able to make it down to Charlotte to sit in court this afternoon. So those guys, tweeted out everything, posted everything that came out of this. So thanks to them for doing all of that. We got to talk about a few things here, though, including what Michael Jordan said about those teams that signed the charter agreement. We know Michael Jordan's a competitive guy. He's a feisty guy. If you watch The Last Dance, you know what I'm talking about. This is not a foreign concept to any of you. And when he found out last year before the playoffs started that every team other than his and Front Row Motorsports signed that charter agreement, he was not happy. He referred to Joe Gibbs Racing as fuckers. You know, the team that his team has an incredibly close relationship with. They basically act like a 7-car team. The other factory Toyota team, referred to them as that. He also said that, quote, the other teams are going to regret not supporting us, pussies, with 3 exclamation points after it. So you knew that he actually meant it. Yeah, Michael Jordan was not happy about that at all. And I can understand the frustration, right? Because all the way up until that point when everyone signed, it appeared that the RTA, the Race Team Alliance, was in lockstep. They weren't going to negotiate with NASCAR on a team-by-team basis. They were going to negotiate collectively and do what was best for the collective as the teams. And then everybody seemingly broke rank and left these other two out here to, hang and dry, and they could have signed, but they elected not to. And now that's the path that we've gone down here. So Michael Jordan, not happy about that at all. We also learned that Denny Hamlin said that his despise for the France family runs deep. Not a shock there. Ironically, he probably was sitting in his 15,000 square foot home in Lake Norman that was paid for by being in NASCAR. But yeah, okay, we understand that the despise runs deep. And I think that's one thing that I'm taking away from all of this is I do not see a clear path to a settlement. This trial is absolutely going to go the distance. We will be sitting here in December talking about this trial because the hatred runs as deep as their pockets do in this case. There is just not one side that wants to give an inch, not one side that gives a damn about the other side at this point, and I just do not see a path to settlement. One thing that came out of this that I'm sure Steve Luletta, from the president of 2311 Racing, probably wishes didn't come out there in regards of how does this move forward? He said, quote, Jim France dying is probably the answer. Yikes. Listen. Have we all said things privately in our home, in our office, confided in people we knew it wasn't going to be public? Yeah, sure. We've all said things we probably wouldn't say publicly. This might be one of those things that he probably wishes he didn't say publicly now that it is out for everybody to read in this trial. Not a great thing. And it's hard to, want to do business with somebody that's like, yeah, dude, we would be better off if you died. All right. Yeah, I can see why the France family maybe wouldn't want to do business. Call me crazy. I can kind of get behind the sentiment there. The teams, though, did bring a lot of evidence that they believe showed that NASCAR was actively working against the teams and was trying to, be a monopoly and everything that goes along with that. And basically, one of the things that the teams wanted to show here was that NASCAR wanted to basically stop and put up a block of any potential, rival series that the teams could, possibly dream up. A copycat series is what it is referred to in court. And one of the things the team said is that that NASCAR was going to work with Speedway Motorsports Incorporated, SMI, the owners of like Charlotte, Atlanta, Bristol, Sonoma, those types of tracks, to not schedule anything for this copycat series, which if that did happen, yeah, there is a case to be made there because that's not a NASCAR entity. You're actively working against them. Like, all right, that's where things get a little bit murky at over there. The teams also presented what they refer to as the golden rule, which would be if the teams didn't show up, if they did boycott, if they did, strike, NASCAR would field every car and run it themselves. NASCAR basically kind of seemed like they were going to rely on the Xfinity teams and the Truck Series teams to fill those spots in the Cup Series, which isn't crazy. We have seen that happen before. But yeah, that was another interesting thing that the teams brought up. We also did get a text message from Curtis Polk, one of the co-owners of 2311 Racing, that said, quote, "Cup racing is boring as shit. I watched that race last night and it was painful to watch." Which, hey, maybe he watched like Pocono or Dover. We've all been there in the last couple of years. There have been some brutally painful races. There's been some great races to watch as well for what it's worth. Then we got some messages between the NASCAR brass, between the C-suite, between the executives over in NASCAR, and one of them between NASCAR leadership, that being Lisa France Kennedy, Jim France, Steve O'Donnell, Steve Phelps. It was about a 2024 meeting where it was questioning if it was productive or just insanity. And Phelps said sarcastically, "Here's a bit more money and fuck off on everything else. A bold strategy." And Phelps said 0 wins for the teams that came out of that. That came from Matt Weaver, who was at the hearing on Thursday. So we learned a lot that kind of came out of it. And then we kind of got down to the point where we did get a message from Steve Phelps that said, quote, "Give them the contract, pick a date and sign it or lose their charters," which is essentially how this played out last year, right before the playoffs started in Atlanta. NASCAR sent the charter agreement over to the teams and said, "You have until this time, sign the agreement or you will lose your charters." And we've heard guys like Richard Childress say that he had to sign the charter agreement because he could not afford to lose his charters. And obviously, 2 teams did not sign out of that being obviously 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports. So they didn't sign, and I don't know if that's necessarily going to prove that, anything for the teams in the situation, but I think that's really the first time that we've seen like the written form of that being shown there as well. We also did see a chain of messages from Steve O'Donnell, and he characterized it as an F the teams in regards to the draft of the charter agreement that was put up, and basically said it would take the sport back to its southern roots like it was 1996. Now, to clarify, that was in support of giving the teams better terms, essentially. So he wasn't saying like, we're going to go out and F the teams here. He's like, basically what was presented was a F the teams type of charter agreement that was never going to fly there. So you can see there was a little bit of concession on both sides, but still not the best. Then we got this text message that Bob Pockris shared out, and it said from Michael Jordan, "I'm not selling even if it were for sale at blank. What would we do?" Curtis Polk said, "This is just a hobby." They love to use exclamation points, which is, I guess, just a kind of a boomer trait to do. Michael Jordan said, "Yep," and said, "Only can play but so much golf. Totally understand. I would do it at blank million. See if Toyota will support us if we decide keep him for 2025 and we are able to get charter." Curtis Polk said, "No way. We would be burning blank million. Invest in what we have and make it better." Michael Jordan said, "I have lost that in a casino. Let's do it." Yeah, Michael Jordan's got it like that in a sense. So there's a lot that we learned, a lot of things that kind of we are hearing publicly for the first time. I will say that the judge in this case basically said that there's no winners in this. And he said if one side thinks they're ahead or winning this, they would be wrong out of this. He also did tell both sides that when this goes to trial on December 1st, which he admitted that he, for the first time on Thursday, believes that this will go the full distance, that we back there in December in front of a jury for this trial. He did warn them that if this goes to trial, that everything will be unsealed. This will be an open trial. So anything that is presented in court will be made public. And I do not know if I know NASCAR does not want any of their stuff to be made public. I'm sure the teams don't necessarily want a lot of their stuff to be made public as well. All of that happened to say, hey, that injunction that you all came here for, Yeah, he's going to give out a ruling next week on that. So that's what we all showed up for. That's what everything was here for, was whether or not the teams are going to be granted that injunction. And, well, we didn't find out about that on Thursday, which wasn't expected to get a ruling on Thursday. We will get a ruling on that next week, whether or not the teams will get their charter status back and NASCAR won't be allowed to sell those charters, or if NASCAR can go ahead and sell those charters and transfer them to whoever they want to, basically, at this point. We also did learn that if NASCAR sells the charters that the two teams bought from Stewart-Haas Racing last year, those two charters that did sign the charter agreement, they will be reimbursed for the purchase of those charters. So it is worth noting that as well. But yeah, contentious, to say the least, so far about this trial. See you all in December. Well, actually, see you all next week when we have another edition of NASCAR, dun dun, and we get back to this. But this is going to trial. I just do not see a path forward that is going to lead to settlement at all. You have three options. You have Daniel Suarez, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Justin Haley. Which one are you going to take? And you can't say none. I understand. I just presented to you with like Dak Prescott, Kyler Murray, Andy Dalton, and you're like, I don't want any of them, dude. But you got to pick one of them here. Justin Haley's hot seat at Spire Motorsports didn't get any cooler with his third place finish this past weekend in Daytona. And according to The Athletic, while it's unlikely Spire makes an in-season driver change like they did last year with Corey LaJoie, they could make a driver change following the season before the 2026 season. And two names that apparently are being rumored for that seat are Daniel Suarez, which we've heard a little bit of that discussion, but also Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who did just sign an extension with Hayek Motorsports last year. So that would be interesting because it would include a buyout from it. Now, I understand when you look at that trio of drivers, it's not awe-inspiring. You're not like, hey, they're going to win us a NASCAR Cup Series championship, but all three of them are winners in the NASCAR Cup Series. Obviously, Justin Haley's came in a rain delay, but he still has that one next to his name in the win column in the Cup Series. So they all are Cup Series winners. When you look at their numbers, let's take a quick look at them real quick here. Daniel Suarez, 2 top 5s, 6 top 10s, an average finish of 20.1. Not great, but also not fantastic either. Then you have Ricky Stenhouse Jr., 1 top 5, 3 top 10s, and an average finish of 22.2. All right, not bad for that Hayek Motorsports equipment when you compare it to Daniel Suarez, because we know that Trackhouse equipment is race-winning equipment. We've seen his teammates win this year. Then you look at Justin Haley, 1 top 5, 2 top 10s, average finish of 21.4. That's not great, especially when you consider that Carson Hocevar's got like 6 top 10s this year or whatever it is in that 77 car for them. So when you're looking at this, you have to, of course, take into consideration the disparity between the levels of equipment. We know that Hayek Motorsports equipment is not the same as what Trackhouse has, and Spire is likely pretty close to what Trackhouse has at this point as well. So what Ricky's been able to do there, and realistically being under one position average finish away from Justin Haley, is not that bad. Pretty impressive. Obviously, he's 2 positions away of Daniel Suarez there. But when you think about it, if you have to pick out of that trio of drivers, I would lean maybe towards Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and see what he can do. Obviously, we know Daniel Suarez is going to be good on super speedways. He's going to be good at road courses for the most part. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., we know he's going to be really good at super speedways. He might cause some wrecks, but he, of course, is going to probably get you to victory lane as well. And then you have Justin Haley, going to be good at super speedways, and that's really kind of where it ends for Justin Haley. Now, I will say this about Haley. He came into the season having Rodney Childers as his crew chief, thinking that that was going to be an absolute godsend for him. The team fires Rodney Childers before the season really even gets going. He's got Ryan Sparks back on top of the box, which he had at the end of last year, and it sounds like Sparks won't be back as his crew chief in 2026. So you're talking about basically 3 crew chiefs in under a year and a half. Not really that conducive for success. Then you look at a guy like Ricky Stenhouse Jr. We know he's going to be good at super speedways, but he's going to be good at Bristol and select other tracks as well. And maybe putting him into a better funded team, a team that is on the rise, a team that has a relationship with Hendrick Motorsports, with teammates like Michael McDowell, Carson Hocevar, even though he might not like Carson that much, maybe that would be conducive for success for Ricky. And honestly, part of me kind of wants to see Ricky get that shot again with a better, like a more well-funded team before his career really kind of fizzles out, just to see what he can get there. So I would probably lean towards Stenhouse, but I'm interested to see kind of what other people think and if Spire is actually going to make a move or not. Because would it just be for 1 year? Because we know that next year in 2026, the driver market should be a lot crazier than it was this year. Or does Spire just kind of hang out for a little bit here and see what happens with this trial? Because, hey, listen, Tyler Reddick, Bubba Wallace could be on the open market for them to take, and maybe they would want to make a move for one of those guys. Guess we'll have to wait and see. So let me know in the comments what you thought about the trial, things that were said today, and which driver would you pick to replace Justin Haley if you would replace him at this point. Like and subscribe to the channel. Follow me on TikTok @BrayCard, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook @BrayCardBlog.